So sitting comfortably and using the wall behind you to support you. And what you're looking for is to get the back of the pelvis against the wall and then your two shoulder blades. It's a little tricky in this room because you've got this dado rail around which can sometimes push you forwards. But if you can think of lifting the ribcage just enough so that you're starting the session with this kind of tall upright spine with this spaciousness around the thoracic spine, that'll be good. And then just taking some time for yourself, and you're just going to rest your hands around your baby. So wherever that is for you. So you all have a bit of an idea of where that connection point is. And in early pregnancy, when there's not much of a bump, your baby's still pretty low down in the pelvis, so you can just rest the hands in the lower pelvis. And then as your baby grows, you've got a lot more options as to where you put your hands. So you might want to have, two hands in different places. You might want to hold the side, or so you'll kind of get a feeling of where you want to connect with your baby. So in terms of the legs, it's really up to you what feels comfortable. You can have the legs stretched out if you've got any discomfort in the pelvic girdle muscles. You can sit cross-legged up to about 34 weeks, and after that there's a little bit of a restriction in the blood flow. So after 34 weeks you might want to come into a sort of an open diamond position. You might even want to take the legs out, and you can, if you want to stretch the hips, you can, and you're less than 34 weeks, you can also bring the soles of your feet together. You want to have a bit of an early stretch in the hips. So just sitting in any way that you feel is the right way for you. And then just roll your shoulders up to your ears, and then gently roll them backwards and down. And then do the same thing again. So roll them up towards your ears, roll them back and down. And then the same thing again. And just notice how they feel. Is there some tightness there? Is there a bit of crunching? Is there some noise? And then just resting back into stillness. And close your eyes. And just enjoy this moment of stillness. So we very rarely spend any time being still, unless you do any particular practice, like a meditation practice where possibly this is kind of interwoven into your day. But for most of us, being still is a bit of a luxury. So just enjoy this moment of just you and your baby, noticing how you feel today, just acknowledging maybe all the little niggles and sensations that you might be experiencing, and also acknowledging all of the mental niggles that you might be experiencing. So during pregnancy, a lot of hormones, and as we know, women and hormones can make us as happy as you like, it can make us as down as you like. It's a bit of a roller coaster. So just acknowledge it. If you're having a bad day, it's okay. It's all part of the process, all part of life, all part of the kind of fluctuating hormones. And then just connecting in with your baby. So if you're less than 20 weeks, the likelihood is you're not going to have any movements yet. So you'll just be connecting to them on an intellectual and an emotional level. After 20 weeks, you might start to experience little flutterings, which then grow into little movements, which then grow into big movements. So some of you, if you're beyond 20 weeks, might be experiencing movement as well. So you can connect to your baby through this physical level as well. And then becoming aware of your breath. So just noticing your in-breath, noticing your out-breath. Notice how it feels. Is your breath flowing smoothly? Does it feel like there's a lot of space to breathe in? Or does the breath feel a little restricted? And again, whatever you experience is perfect for this moment in time. And then we're going to slightly change the breath. So we're going to work with a very simple, easy breath, which is straw breath. So you're going to make a little hole, a little circle with the lips, as if you had a straw in between the lips, or as if you were whistling. And you're just going to gently blow the breath out through that space. So this is one of the birthing breaths. Birthing breaths are designed to help you through labour, and they're all designed to lengthen the exhalation. The exhale is the part of the breath that is inherently relaxing, releasing and softening, which are the qualities that we want when we're birthing. We have a variety of different breaths which you'll experience throughout the weeks. So you can also make this breath on the inhale as well. It's quite cooling when you breathe in through this little straw that you've made with your lips. So it may or may not suit you to do this on the inhalation. You may prefer to just continue with an inhale through the nose and just blowing the breath out on your exhale. So you can choose which feels good for you. And you're going to continue with the breath, but you're going to take your arms out to the sides and you're just going to catch hold of opposite elbows. So this is one of the go-to moves for rib pain, especially for heartburn. So we're just going to do a few little heartburn stretches. So in some instances, just even the lifting can help with the heartburn. But we're also going to add in a little bit of lateral stretching. So the next time you breathe out, you're just going to ease over to one side. If you all go the same, yeah, you're far enough away, it's fine. I was going to say, if you were close together, you might all have to go the same way, but you're fine. And then inhaling back to the centre. And then exhaling, just easing over to the other side. And inhaling to the centre. Just doing that a few more times. So using that straw breath to create a nice, slow, steady movement. And then the next time you come over to the left, you can make that the last of your movements. And then you can just release the arms down. So from here, you're going to come over onto your hands and your knees. So just moving out of your seated position and coming onto hands and knees. When you come into this position, it's quite useful to actually begin by creating a lot of space in the body, because sometimes we can have the hands and the knees quite close together. It still feels like we're on all fours, but it means that the spine is quite crumpled up together. Whereas if we actually lengthen the spine, create some space between the vertebrae, and then place the hands under the shoulders, it gives us a little bit more manoeuvrability through the spine. So in addition to that, you're going to take your knees wide enough apart so that you can squeeze your baby in between the knees. So that will vary depending on how, what the gestation of your pregnancy is, but also how your baby is lying. Because you might actually be less pregnant than the person next to you, but if your baby is lying transverse, which means they're lying sideways, you're going to need a lot more space between your knees. Because they're literally taking up all the width in your body. So allowing yourself enough space for your baby, and still using that straw breath, tuck your tailbone under, arch the spine, push your hands
into the ground and make a sort of a dome shape with your back, and then just wriggle the hips from side to side. So this gives you quite a nice stretch in the lower back. So if you've got any congestion or tightness in your lower back, this can help to ease it out. And then come back to the centre, keeping the back in this rounded position. And as you next exhale, take that rounded back towards your heels. Now you may or may not get all the way back to heels. It will depend on your ankles, it will depend on your hips. You might even want to have a little sway here, gentle movements of the hips from side to side. And then when you breathe in, you're going to push the shins into the ground and rise all the way up. So just do this a few times. So straw breath, roll the spine to the ceiling, round the back, and at the same time take the hips all the way back to the heels with your straw breath. You've got lots of time to get these movements in. And then when you breathe in, you push your shins into the ground, rise all the way back up. So you're going to do that 2 more times. So tuck the tailbone under, arch the spine, make a really rounded back, and then take the hips onto the heels. And then when you breathe in, you push your shins into the ground and rise all the way up. And just 1 more time. So this is, we do this kind of every week. Those of you that have been with me for some months, you know we do this every week, just because it's so nice for the lower back. The lower back gets so congested during pregnancy. It's so, not congested, what's the word? This is the word again. Where they get compressed. Compressed. So the discs get compressed, spine gets compressed. But that's a really good way of kind of undoing that compression in the lower back. So if you just come and sit back for a moment, I'm going to show you the next one. So there's a little bit of a kind of a technique to it. So we're going to stay with the weight in the leg. So you're going to tilt the tailbone up. So we tucked it, which is this way. Now we're going to tilt it the other way. You're going to slide one arm forwards and drop down onto your elbow. And then you slide that arm back. You stretch the other arm out and you drop down. And then you slide that arm back and then. So if any of you have done regular yoga, it's a variation of puppy dog pose. So some of you, if you do a lot of yoga, you'll recognise this puppy dog pose. It's a bit tricky to do that in pregnancy, so we're kind of modifying it by doing it 1 arm at a time. And obviously you can't do full puppy dog because some of you are never going to get anywhere near your thighs with your, well you will, you'll get really close to your thighs and your belly, but you won't get that kind of length. So from the all fours position, tilting your tailbone up to the ceiling, and then slide 1 arm forwards and let the other elbow drop to the floor. And then slide the elbow back and then slide the other one forward. So you've always got one elbow on the floor, which is creating stability, and then the stretch is happening in the other elbow that you're extending out along the ground. And you're just going to do that a few times. You've got
Look in the gesture thing.
quick.
I think it's like leaning forward.
Yeah, so you're in the perfect class tonight then.
I get it all the time.
Keep going, get those arms up.
That is better actually.
And then when you have finished your last one, you can just come all the way back up. So you might start to feel it's, everything's kind of loosening up a little bit already. So our last movement on all fours is going to work into the shoulder blades. So this is a really nice one for the thoracic spine, but shoulder blades this time. So again, I will show you. We're going to go back to the tucking under, the rounding, and the sinking back. But you're going to take your left arm, cross it outside the right hand. And now when you go back, you're going to get an exquisite pull. You might have to kind of sink back a little bit, but your left shoulder blade is going to get really nicely pulled open in a nice way. So, all fours position again. Tuck the tailbone under as you did before. So you're tilting, so you're tucking the tailbone, rounding the back, and then take the left arm outside the right arm. And then keep the back round and slowly go back onto your heel. So you're not going sideways. You want to kind of go straight back, otherwise you're not going to get the stretch in the shoulder. And you can stay there for as long as you like. It may be that you quite like it and you might do a couple of breaths there and breathe into the shoulder blade, or you might need to come up quite regularly and swap sides. So you can choose how long do you want to stay there. When you are done, you come back and you do the same on the other side. So you cross the right arm over, round the back, take the hips back towards the heel, and then potentially breathe in as if you're breathing into that right scapula, right shoulder blade. And then come all the way up, and then you can just do it a couple more times on each side. So remember to round the back as you go back, Harriet. So tuck the tailbone under, yeah, arch that, and now go back. It feels different, doesn't it? You get much more bang for your buck when you do that, because now you're really lengthening into the lower back as well. And then when you are ready, you can come all the way back up, and then you're going to sit. You're going to need some space behind you, because we're going to be taking the arms back. So you can sit kind of in the middle of the mat, and you might want to actually sit and face me. So you're sitting in the middle of the mat but facing me. Found the ties. Been threatening this for ages. So you're all going to get a tie and do a really, really nice stretch for the shoulders. If you've got a yoga belt, by the way, and you've got one with you, you can use that instead. Ties that you might need to come a bit further forward, please, because you get far enough to the wall behind. Oh, just enough. Just enough. Hey, you've got your strap. Perfect. Right, I do my strap. So, shoulder stretch. So those of you, I think it's just you, Lauren, that did the baby yoga. Yeah, so this is a bread and butter pose for baby yoga, because if you think you've got stiff shoulders now, wait till you've had your baby. Nothing ruins your shoulders and your upper back quite like holding a newborn for sort of 12 hours a day. So this is a really good stretch, and what it does is it lengthens the pectoral muscles, and it kind of draws everything back, so it's the complete opposite to what normally happens. I love it when people sit up. I do that as well. I only have to talk about it. Oh, yes, because we love a slump. We love a slump, we love round in the back, but it's, it affects our breathing, it affects our digestion, because if you're just eating, it's going to squish your stomach. So there's lots of reasons to kind of hold this posture, this shape, and this is going to help you. So you take the strap, take it wide. What you don't want to do is wrap round, so don't wrap. And then the first couple of times you're really going to be just testing the water to find out how far apart the hands need to be. You're going to slowly take the arms back. You're going to keep the strap horizontal and lightly pull the hands away from each other. Now, if you've got the strap in the right place, you'll be able to go all the way down, and you'll get a little bit of a pull over your pectoral muscles at the front of your chest. And then you bring the strap all the way back up. Now, if you've got your hands too close together, what's going to happen is you're not going to get all the way back, so you'll do this, yeah? And then you haven't done the stretch. So you need to take the hands a bit wider. If you're going back and you're like, well, this is rubbish, you've probably got your hands too far apart. So you need to find the perfect place when you take them back and you do a little bit of a, ooh. And if you don't have the face, you probably haven't got the hands in the right place. Is that okay for everybody? Obviously, if you've got a shoulder injury, then this may not be the right thing for you to do, so you can miss it out. Has anybody got a shoulder injury? Okay. You might get noise as you do it, you might get some crunching. And then after about 4 or 5 goes, you might think, oh, I haven't got the face anymore. And that's because you've loosened the muscles. So then what you do, you walk the hands a tiny bit closer together, not too much, so that then again you go back to the face.
Is it supposed to hurt your neck?
It's not supposed to hurt it, but what it might be doing is loosening the neck. But I'll have a look and see what you're doing, because it might be that as you're doing it, you're trying to come forward. A lot of people do that rather than staying completely upright and just articulating the shoulders. What people tend to do, you're pushing your head forward. That's why that's happening. I might have the solution. If you just, because your posture is really nice, but I think if you just put that under your sitting bones, it might just lift you up vertically enough so that you're not having to do the work with the neck. I think that's what's happening. Can you feel that happening?
Yeah, my neck's
Trying to get the neck from the head through first. Okay, so see if that makes any difference. Everybody else all right? Is that working? Can you feel? I mean, it's one of these things. It's horrible when you do it, but it's nice when it stops. Is that better?
I think so.
Let's have a look. See if you keep. Yeah, you're keeping the head at that. Yeah, that's you. See, you're keeping the posture. Okay, one more. And then we're just going to do some lateral stretches. So lateral stretches, side bends, are always really good for the rib cage. So for all of those reasons, helping the breath, giving a bit of space for the lungs. So keeping the body upright and not moving anything apart from the right arm. Just pull the right arm down. So I'm going the other way, I'll go the same way. So pull the right arm down and let the left arm just come over. So you're not doing this. You're just pulling right arm down and just letting that stretch happen. And then back to the centre. And then pull down on the left arm. And draw the right arm over. So it feels a bit strange because actually there's no side bend, there's no lateral flexion in terms of what's happening in the spine. But there's quite a deep stretch, isn't there, in the shoulder and in the armpit. Same thing again. Again. And then you can release. And now just notice how that feels. So you might have a slightly different experience. You might feel quite spacious in this sort of thoracic part of the spine. Okay, so from here, we're going to come up to standing. So you might need to take your socks off as we're going to do a little bit of standing poses. There may or may not be a dog involved. But we're going to come up in a specific way. So particularly when you're getting towards the end of your pregnancy, kind of up and down is quite tricky. So you can tuck your toes under, walk your hands back, drop the heels to the floor, and then uncurl. And come all the way up to standing. Okay, so you're going to come to the front of your space. Bring the palms of your hands together. And then we're going to work with another breath. So most of you have done this with me, the Ujjayi breath or the ocean breath. So restricting the muscles around your throat very lightly, as if you're snoring. Have you done any yoga before? So do you know the one I'm on about, that snoring breath? So you basically just create a very light restriction in the throat. And this just gives us more control over the breath, makes the breath longer, and at the same time, we're actually bringing more oxygen into the body. So this is a really good breath to do if you get breathless, if you feel like you're not getting enough energy, enough oxygen into either your body or into your baby.
this is a really, really good breath to use. So, starting at the front of your space, using that ocean breath, ujjayi breath, little restriction around the throat, nothing too strong, nothing too harsh, just enough so that you can hear that little oceanic sound. And then the next time you breathe in, stretch the arms out and up over the head, but equally push the feet into the ground. Don't use the shoulders to lift the arms up. Keep the shoulders nice and relaxed. See if you can lift the rib cage instead. So you want to create softness around the shoulders. And then just lengthen, just lift the right rib cage up to the ceiling. And then just lift the left rib cage up to the ceiling. So this creates a little lateral stretch. And same thing again, so right rib cage lifts up, left rib cage lifts up. And then both rib cages together. And then we're just going to gently peel down, so soften the knees, gently peel all the way to the floor. And you can, if you want, to take the feet a little wider, particularly in the later stages of pregnancy, so that you can give a bit more space to your baby. And then from here, just ease the shoulders from side to side. Relax the head, relax the neck. So really let go.
Still too far today.
Yeah, just keep going, keep going. And then from here, bringing the hands all the way down to the floor, and you're going to step one knee back and then the other knee back. So coming onto all fours, and then stretch the right leg all the way back. So anti-cramp stretch, always a good one to have under your belt or to have in your toolkit. So push the heel away and just keep that stretch going until the intensity of the stretch eases off in the calf muscles. So if you're getting cramp at night, this will stop it. You do it before you get into bed, and you hold the stretch until the calf muscle isn't complaining anymore. And then from there, you slide the leg all the way around to the side, bend the knee, and bring the foot to the outside of the hand. Now, those of you with SPD, are you okay here, or do you want to do something different? If you're doing something, so what you could do, Amy, do you want to grip your brick? So you can do yours from here and have your brick and come up if you want to. If it gets too much, go back onto both legs together. So from here, we're going to push into the right foot, and you'll notice that that starts to lift you up from the ground. Keep that leg working, keep the shin working on the back leg, and then you're upright without having used any of your back muscles. Take the arms up over the head. And then again, have a little lengthen. Reach through one side of the ribs, reach through the other side of the ribs. And then reach the arms all the way back behind you and interlace the fingers. See if you can squeeze the shoulder blades together. So again, this is another pec stretch. So you're opening the muscles around the pectorals. Take a breath in. And then gently release the hands all the way down and then slide the foot all the way back. Now you've got a couple of choices. If you're comfortable, you can do down facing dog, and then you might want to have a little stretch through the legs. Now for those of you who've got shoulder or wrist injuries, or you're having raging heartburn, you're not going to want to do that. So you can stay on all fours and just maybe have some hip circles here. So you can choose what you do. So downward dog if you want to, or staying on all fours if that feels more comfortable for you at this point. And then bringing the knees all the way back down to the ground. And then stretching the left leg all the way back. The toes are pushing into the ground. The heel is lengthening away, and you're going to hold that stretch. So again, just feeling into the intensity in the calf muscle. And then just allowing it to slowly ease away. And then once it's eased away, you circle the leg all the way around to the front of the mat. And then you push into the left foot, into the right shin. Allow yourself to rise up from the strength in the legs. Take the arms up over the head. This time interlace the fingers, push the palms up to the ceiling, but keep the shoulders relaxed. So it's easy to lift the shoulders. It's harder to actually let them go and to lift the rib cage instead, but you want to have space around the neck. And then release, reach the arms all the way back behind, interlace the fingers and squeeze the shoulder blades together. And release the hands all the way down to the floor. So from here, lift the back knee up and then slide the foot forwards. So coming back into your full bend and then just gently uncurling. Push the feet into the ground and again use that to uncurl. Come all the way up. So still staying at the front of the mat, feet are hip distance apart. Take the arms up over the head. So we're just going to keep on doing these kind of heartburn movements. Take hold of the opposite elbows. We did this sitting, we're going to do it standing. So you're going to press your left foot into the ground. And then from that left foot, lengthen the left side of the waist. And then just allow the upper body to come over to the right side. And then to come up, push the right foot into the ground. So rather than using our spine, our head, our neck and our shoulders to create these movements, we're going to actually get the ground involved as well. So now push the right foot into the ground, start to lengthen the right side of the body and just ease over to the left side. And then to come up, push the left foot into the ground and rise up. And then release the hands. So from the front of your space now, you're going to step your right foot back, but what I'd like you to do is keep your feet at tramline position. So feet are hip width apart, so imagine that your feet are on, do you know what, we always call it tramline, but I mean even I'm too young to know what a tram is, apart from the fact that they're coming back. Train tracks. Imagine your feet are on train tracks and slide the right leg back on that train track so your hips are nice and open, and then rotate the left leg out. Now for those in this row, if you want to spin around so that you're facing me, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, so you just turn around so you're all going the same way. So you've still got your left knee bent, but you're facing forwards now. And Kelly, you're fine as you are. So left knee bends, and you want the knee to sit over the ankle, not beyond it. So if you've got the capacity to do this, you'll need to take the foot further forwards because it's not good for the knee. You'll damage your cruciate ligaments, and we all know what happens for that. You can't play in the World Cup, and that would be a shame. So drop the little toe down on that left foot and notice how that rotates through the hip. So little toe on the left foot pushes down and then push into your right heel. So now notice how that feels. Now push into the four corners of both feet as well. So can you feel that sense of sort of solidity in the body from the kind of pelvis down? The glutes are engaged, legs are engaged, feet are engaged. Now there's lots of movement here. So we're not using spine. And that can sometimes be the case if the legs aren't functioning properly, if they're not doing the heavy lifting work, if they're a bit kind of flaccid, the spine has to pick up the slack. But we want the spine to move. So we're going to do some movements with the spine. So we're going to take the arms out to the sides. You're going to gently ease back towards the back leg, so towards the right. Take the left arm up to the ceiling. Now sink down a little bit more. See if you can drop the left hip a little bit more. And then from that left hip, can you lengthen the right side of the waist? The knee stays bent and there's still that sense of grounding and rooting through the earth. And then to come up, push into the right foot. Use the leg to come up. And then you're going to straighten left leg. And then we're just going to lengthen the right side of the body. You're just going to let the hand reach down, the left hand, to wherever it wants to come to.
And actually you don't have to straighten that front leg, you can keep it slightly soft, and it's nicer for the knee joint actually. If you're struggling with your knee today, keep it slightly soft. Now keep pushing back into the right foot. Notice how that lengthens through the side of the body. And if you want a little bit more, you can take the arm over the head. But again, make that movement come from the rib cage and from the side waist, not by pulling the arm into the shoulder joint. And then bend the front knee, push it into the ground, rise all the way up. Just do that again. Go backwards. Keep the feet rooting down. Now drop the left hip. So front knee bent, Jen. That's it. And really drop that left hip down. And then grow out like a flower growing from the earth. And Margot as well, that front knee bends. Yeah, lovely. And then to come up, push into the right foot. Let the left leg straighten as much as you want it to. And then to come over, rather than kind of leaning the body weight over, keep pushing into the right heel and just push the right hip away. Slightly different way of coming into this pose. Keep the right hip pushing backwards towards the right heel. Keep pressing the little toe down on the left foot. Relax the head, so find the position where the head is happy, where it's not hurting the knee. And then bend the left knee to come up, push into the foot, climb all the way up. And then have a little wriggle. Release. Now turn the feet to the parallel. So wide-legged stretch, interlace the fingers behind you, squeeze the shoulder blades together. Push the four corners of your feet into the ground and then just gently bow down. Now you can bend the knees. If the hamstrings are a bit complaining, then you can soften the knees. If you've got high blood pressure, or you have a heart condition, if you have glaucoma, detached retina, you leave the hands on the lower back. You don't take the arms over the head because it increases the pressure coming into the head. If you've got low blood pressure, you might quite enjoy having a little bit of extra blood coming into the head. So you're just going to hold it for a little bit longer. And then release the hands to the floor and then push up onto your fingertips. So this is a halfway pose. Excuse me. And then from here, bend the knees, bring the hands onto your thighs, slowly come up. So when we've had the head down, particularly in pregnancy where the blood pressure can be all over the place, we want to take these transitions coming up slowly. If you come up too quickly from head down, woo. Okay. So from here now, we're going to do those warrior poses and triangle poses on the other side. So the right leg is going to rotate all the way out. And the left leg is going to rotate in. You're going to bend the right knee, and then you may need to take some time just to kind of get everything where you want it to be. You want the right knee sitting over the ankle, so adjust your foot to allow that to happen. Now press the little toe down on that side. Press right back into the left heel, and then kind of root down through the four corners of both feet. And just notice how that creates that solidity that allows everything else to move. Float the arms out to the sides. Reach backwards. Drop the right hip down and then see if you can extend out of that hip with your waist. Take a breath. And then to come up, push into the left foot. Bring the arms back and then straighten the right leg just as much as you want it to. And just ease over to the right side. Let the hand rest wherever it wants to. Keep pushing into the four corners of the foot. And if you want a little bit more, lengthen the waist, lengthen the rib cage, and just extend the arm over the head. To come up, bend the right knee, push into the right foot, climb all the way up, and then do the same again. So reach backwards, and then drop into the left hip a little bit more, and arch it. Also, a bit more of a bend in the front knee if you can. Drop that right hip down, and then grow, extend out of it. And then push into the left foot to rise up, straighten the front leg.
And as we did last time, now push the left hip backwards. Push the left hip backwards. Notice how it feels a little bit different when you approach from here. And the front knee, push into the front leg, rise all the way up, relax the arms, turn the feet parallel to each other, and just a simple forward bend, so just slide the hands down the legs, and you can just stop the hands at the point where you think, yeah, that's enough, where your hamstrings will tell you that's enough, or your heartburn will tell you. So, it's pose of the day for you, Jen. And then again, you can come up halfway. So hands onto your thighs or feet onto the floor, coming up halfway, just enjoying that little moment to recalibrate your blood pressure, and then bend the knees and push all the way up. So now we're going to come into a little bit of a squatting position. So you're going to turn the feet out. And you're going to bend the knees. Find a position where you're comfortable, so you can play around a little bit until you feel you've got a good place for your feet. If you're not comfortable here with SPD, then give it a miss. You can maybe do a narrow squat with a brick, and you won't be able to do the circular movements that we're going to do, but you can work on your inner thigh strength. So you play around a little bit until your feet find their natural position where they're comfortable. And then with the hands on your thighs, and I find turning the hands backwards, what you're going to do, the legs are not going to straighten. And there's a kind of thing that as we go into these moves, that you might do this, okay? This is the cheating way, because there's no real rotation through the spine. And what we want is this. This is much better for the spine. So the thighs stay exactly as they are. You push the right hand into the right thigh so the arm straightens, and then you drop the right shoulder or the right collarbone towards your left thigh, and then you push into the feet lightly to bring yourself back up. Does that make sense? And same on the side, so push into the left thigh, so the left arm straightens, and you're just taking your right shoulder, left shoulder over towards the right leg, and push into the feet to come all the way up. Do you want to do that 2 more times? It's quite a nice stretch for the spine. Gives you a bit of squatting practice. What is squatting good for?
Labour.
Labour. Which part of labour?
All of it.
Perfect. And particularly
The last bit.
pushing. And then come back to the centre, and then have a little bit of a wriggle. So you want to bounce heels, shimmy the hips, and then our last move, standing up, is going to be doing that in a circular movement. So slightly different, but with the hips in this position. So coming back to here. So this again is the heartburn move. It's the can't breathe very efficiently move. It's the rib pain move. So drop back into our squat, and you ease over, and then you sweep all the way down to the ground. And you sweep up the other side, and you come all the way up. And then you swap sides. Right. Sweep the arms down to the floor. Rise all the way back up. And come up. Okay, and again. Circling round. So the more the knees are bent, the easier the circling is. Otherwise the hamstrings and the back are having to do quite a lot of the heavy lifting. And then release. And then just walk your toes in. Walk your heels in. Walk your toes in. Walk your heels in. Until you're back into a neutral position. And then just a little bounce up and down through the heels. So rebounding. Bit of a jiggle through the body.
wiggling, wobbling, and bouncing. So we're going to come back down, so just curling. So if you come to the kind of the back end of your mat, an easy way to come down, curl the spine, keep the knees nice and loose, you can have a bit of a dangle, and then you walk your feet forward, walk your hands forwards until the knees come down to the ground. So you're back onto all fours, and from that position, you come and sit back onto your heels, and then stretch the legs out in front, okay? So, a slightly easier way of getting up and down, particularly when you're moving towards the later stages of your fitness out. So,
It's transverse.
yeah. Oh, that's better. It's better than bridge.
No, she's been like it for like 2 weeks now. So.
And that's really uncomfortable. But
If she doesn't move
now.
No, 35 and a half. Oh, okay. But if she's not moved by next week, they're potentially admitting me to hospital because of where she is. She's not great, so she's got to move.
She's got to move, yeah.
How weird.
So, taking the legs wide, or as wide as you are comfortable with, and point your toes, and pull your things back. Point your toes, pull your things back. And again. And then push the heels away. Notice how that sort of grounds and roots. You might want to sit on a block or a wedge just to slightly tilt the tailbone forwards. You've got a little bit of space. So another move that's going to work on the upper back. Fingertips come onto the floor. So if you're up against the wall, you might get into trouble because we're going to do this. So you might not get this lovely lasso movement if you're all the way up against the wall. Sorry about that. You all got so comfortable. So pushing the heels away, fingertips on the ground. You're going to inhale and take the right arm up, but remember we're not pulling through the arm, we're lengthening through the side of the body and also pushing the right hip into the floor. And then on the exhale we're just easing to the side, but again you keep the right hip rooted and you just extend through the side of the body. And then as you inhale, turn the right palm upwards and reach it forwards and draw a semicircle. So a bit of a hamstring stretch, bring it all the way back around, bring the right hand to the floor, and then the left hand is going to lasso. You're going to take the left arm, elbow above the head, and then draw the hand behind the head. So it's like a lasso movement. You might get a lot of crunching, and then bring the hand all the way down. We're going to do that 2 more times on this side. So same movement again. Push the right hip into the ground, inhale, extend. Exhale, lengthen the side of the body, but keep the right sitting bone rooted into the floor. As you breathe in, turn the palm upwards. And just reach the arm around. And then exhaling, lasso. And just one more time. And then we're going to do it on the opposite side. So now the left hip pushes into the ground and you lengthen through the side of the body. On the out breath, keep the sitting bone pushing into the floor as you extend through the side of the body. On the inhale, turn the left palm upwards and reach it forwards and round, so creating a semicircle. With the hand, that hand comes to the floor and then you lasso with the right arm. Lovely, 2 more times. Just following the same movements. Remember, we're creating this length in the side of the body through the muscles in the ribs and the waist. We don't want to get our arms doing all the movement because that just increases the tension we're getting in the shoulders. Okay, and then from here, Bring the left leg in. And then bring the left hand down onto the floor near the body. And I'll just show you first of all, if you haven't done this before, we're going to push up. And then you can, what you want to do is get your thigh vertical. So that's what's going to give you the support to stay here. If you're kind of here or here, then the arm has to do all the work. So you want that thigh vertical, because then, you know, essentially you can just even take everything off the ground, but we're not going to do that. You're going to keep the foot on the floor. You're going to come into another side. Okay, so I'll talk you through it if you're not already up there. So you're going to push up through the left hand and just ease around until your left thigh is vertical, right foot on the ground, and just extend the right arm away. Breathe into the right side of your body. And release. Come all the way down. And then bring the soles of your feet together. If that's comfortable, if not, just take them straight out. And then extend the left leg out wide. And then we'll do the same on the other side. So you're going to push up onto the right leg, shimmy around until that thigh is vertical. Extend the left arm over the head. And then release. Come back down. Do the same. Do we do it twice on the other side? No, just the once. Okay. Right, and then soles of feet together. So last little bit, I'm going to come up onto hands and knees and just do a little bit of birth prepping moves. So again, every week, primed and ready to go. So on all fours, and you're going to draw figure of 8 with your hips. So circling one hip in one direction, circling the other hip in the other direction. So you're drawing the figure of 8 or the infinity symbol with your hips. At the same time, can you use a different breath? So this this is a little bit more of a dynamic breath. So you're going to, so it's like a silent roar. You're just whispering the H sound. It's almost a vocalization of the ujjayi or the ocean wave. What's this good for?
Energizing.
The breath is good for energizing, yeah. What's the movement good for?
Getting the baby in the right position.
Getting the baby in the right position and cervical dilation. When would we do this?
At the start. During contractions?
During
Yeah.
contractions, yeah. Stage 1. Stage 1, yeah. But only during contractions. And then you can rest. So make a space for your baby, roll the spine to the ceiling. Ease your hips all the way back onto your heels. And just take a little rest, which is what you would hopefully be offering yourself during labour. So you move when you contraction, when the contraction stops, you have a rest. And then whenever the next contraction starts up, you come back again. We won't do that. So you're going to push into your shins. I'm going to show you what you're going to do next. It's a lying down move. You're going to do that, and then you can go straight into the relaxation. So you want to get like socks on, blankets, etc., pillows and stuff all handy. but I'll show you first what you're going to be doing. So it's a shoulder stretch and a hip stretch, but you can adapt this. If you don't want to do the hip stretch for SPD, you can actually just put the brick between your thighs and squeeze instead. That's your option. So, hip opening option is to take the feet as wide as your mat, and then we're just going to alternate. I'll tell you when we're going to do that. Alternate, dropping the knees to one side, and then at some point I'll get you to drop the knees to the other side. The shoulder stretch comes from taking the arms onto the ground behind you. Now, most of us, when we come into this position, end up somewhere like this. We try and get the arms really close to the ears, and then nothing really touches the floor. If you want to truly loosen the shoulders, we actually need to come into more of a Y shape, where the wrists are wider than the elbows. And that allows everything to touch the ground, which means you're stretching and opening around the collarbones, around the armpits, and around the thoracic spine. Okay? So, two things. Feet wide as your mat. And when you come to lie down, take the arms back behind you so knees are bent, Rupinder, and you might need to come down a bit so you've got some space to take your arms back. Or do what Jen did so cleverly, spin the other way. Well done, Jen, you get a star, being clever. So taking the arms wide, see what you want to do is have your wrists wider than the elbows, as if you're making a Y shape, and you'll know when you've got that position because you get a real pull in the shoulders, and you start to feel this opening around the shoulders. So once you've done that, take the feet that's wide as your mat and then just gently drop both knees over to the right. We're just going to hold them there for a couple of breaths. Now, if that feels uncomfortable, you can obviously come out. If you're not getting much of a stretch there, you could even take the feet a bit wider. So the wider the feet are, the more you're going to get this articulation through the hips. So you can adapt how you're doing things. Take a few breaths, a long, steady Ujjayi breath. I'm just coming to grab my thighs. And then the next time you breathe in, take your knees up to the centre. Let's have them a bit closer in actually, Margot, because you'll get more, so have them wide, but now it'll feel different. You might get more, okay. So then you're going to take the legs to the left. So feet are still wide, you'll be taking both knees over to the left, and then just holding them there for a while. So Pinda, what happens if you take your wrists a bit wider?
Hold my arms again,
That's the stretch. So what it's doing is it's counteracting this. So if we're here all the time, our muscles are going to be tight across the front. So what we're doing today is kind of getting into those spaces. I'm just going to take my time from getting into those spaces. It is likely to feel tight if you haven't ever stretched those muscles. And then obviously we have to kind of make that decision between, is this really painful, is it a sharp pain, or is this like, oh, this is just a tight pain? Yeah, so breathe into it, breathe into it. And then the next time you breathe in, you can gently come all the way back up to the centre. And then walk the feet gently in towards each other. Interlace the fingers behind the back of your head. And then just gently take both knees over to the right. So now, because we've got the legs together, this is going to be a lumbar twist instead. So we're going to stretch your lower back. Just hold it there for a few breaths. Notice how that feels.
And the next time you breathe in, push the feet into the ground to get the knees back up to the centre, and then gently take them over to the other side. And then just notice how it feels on this side. And then you can bring the knees all the way back up to the centre. So on final move, you're going to bring the knees up. You're going to take them either side of your bump. So knees, well, I would say knees to chest, but you've got a bump in the way. So knees to chest, but stranded beetle position, where the knees are going outside of your bump. So you're just lengthening the lower back, and you might want to maybe squeeze the knees in and out. You might want to circle the knees around. So just exploring how that feels, what feels good here. So this is a way of massaging into the sacrum. So the back of the pelvis actually has quite a lot of congestion during pregnancy. And it's not uncommon to have quite a lot of discomfort in the back of your pelvis. So this rolling out, this kind of massaging move where you're rolling the knees forwards and backwards or circling the knees around can sometimes find the sweet spot where you can iron out any lumpiness or tightness that you might have in your sacrum. It might not feel like a sweet spot in the first instance, it might feel the opposite. Okay, so from here, I'm not going to do anything else other than let you lie down. So if you want to put something warmer on, then you may want to do that. I'm just going to put this on. So the position that you choose to lie down will vary. Up until 20 weeks, it's still okay to lie on your back. So if you're comfortable, you can lie on your back. After 20 weeks, it's not really conducive because you're compressing the vena cava, which is feeding yourself and your baby with blood. And so it's not recommended to lie on your back consciously for long periods of time. After 20 weeks. Having said that, obviously there are going to be times when you accidentally lie on your back, and what will happen is that your body will wake you up. You will wake up and just gently roll over onto your side. So if you're lying on your side, you might want to use some pillows, cushions, blocks to make it comfortable. So either under your head, if you've got any pulling around the abdomen, round ligaments can sometimes pull a little bit. So you might want to place a block or a pillow underneath your bump. If you've got any discomfort around the legs, around the hips, around the pelvis, then you might want to place a block in between the legs. I've got some extra blocks, so if you would like something else, just wave and I'll bring you something over. Do you want a thinner one, Lauren?
No, I'm just alright, I'm just looking about.
So once you've got yourself into the position that you are fairly comfortable, I'm just going to stay here for a while and allow yourself to rest. I'm going to turn the light off. I've got lots of little kind of Christmassy sparkly lights, so it won't be completely dark. And there may be moments during your time here where you feel the need to move, and that's absolutely fine. So if you're not completely comfortable, then you can change your position. Become aware of the ground beneath you. And notice how the ground provides you with a supportive foundation. So if we consider that the ground is rising up to meet us, we can offer ourselves down into the ground. We can surrender into it. Rather than pushing ourselves away from the ground, we can offer ourselves to it. And this quality of surrender is actually very useful. It's very useful for the process of relaxation, but it's extremely useful for labour. Surrendering into whatever arises. So notice how that feeling of surrendering presents itself to you. So it might arise as something normal, achievable, welcomed, or it might not. It might present itself to you as something unattainable, something uncomfortable, something even triggering. So just notice the reaction that you have to this idea of surrendering. Of the feeling of your breath inside your nostrils. And if you are unable to breathe in through the nostrils due to congestion, which again is quite common during pregnancy, then be aware of the sensation of the breath coming in through the mouth. If you're breathing in and out through the nose, we're going to work through an alternate nostril practice. So the next time you breathe in, can you just imagine that you're breathing in through the left nostril only and breathing out through the left nostril only? And then for the next breath, do the same thing on the right nostril. So imagine that you're just breathing in through the right nostril and you're just breathing out of the right nostril. And just continue in that same way. So single nostril breathing. So you do it mentally with your mind, but there's often a point where it becomes a mechanical reality where you really feel the breath only going in through one nostril. Breathe in through one nostril, breathe out through that same nostril, and then swap over. Breathe in through the other nostril, breathe out through that nostril. next time you breathe out, you can just relax that alternate nostril breath awareness. And now continue to breathe in and out through both nostrils simultaneously. Bring your awareness back into your body and imagine that you are floating. And you can choose the way that you feel most comfortable to be floating. So you might be happy to free float in a body of water somewhere. Or you might prefer to be on maybe something like a lilo, an airbed. You might imagine that you are on a raft. Or you might even imagine that you are on a luxury yacht floating above the surface of the water. But just to give you this idea of the buoyancy that comes from floating in water. And you can choose how best you feel comfortable visualizing this sense of buoyancy. And then you let that image dissolve and instead move your awareness to the image of your baby. Your baby is also floating in a body of water. Your baby is also buoyant. So just imagine your baby effortlessly floating weightlessly inside your womb. Complete freedom of movement. Being able to turn, floating around in this beautiful, warm, dark, safe space that you have created for them. And then just gently letting that image fade away as well. Now begin to bring your awareness back into the sensations of your body lying on the ground. Notice all the parts of your body that are touching the ground. And begin to externalize your awareness as we come towards the end of our practice tonight. Notice the sensations in your body. Notice the sounds you can hear. Be aware of the room. Be aware of the other people lying in the room. And then maybe take a long, deep breath in. And sigh the breath out. And then begin to move your body. So making little movements. Maybe your toes and your fingers to begin with. Maybe some bigger, more dynamic stretches. And in your own time, just gently bringing yourself all the way up into the sitting. coming back into whatever comfortable position you want to come into. Just noticing how you feel. How does your body feel? Particularly neck and shoulders, upper back, all those spaces, the rib cage. There's a little bit more space there now. Do you feel a little bit more upright? And we'll close our practice this evening by chanting the 3 sounds of Om, which is A-U-M, particularly that sound. I want you to let it kind of really resonate with your babies if they're really kind of taking on those vibrations. If you don't wish to join in, that's absolutely fine. So take a breath in. Thank you so much for your time and attention and for coming out on such a miserable night. I hope it's been worth your journey. Have a wonderful week. Namaste, Yogini Momos. I'm going to put the light on, it's going to be horrible. Noisy cells.